Konrad Curze's breath hitches, Shen's blade strikes. The Night Haunter's eyes flare crimson defiance, not despair, a gambit sealed in blood. The crimson defiance Imperium's chains shatter if the Ruinous Powers learn their greatest weapon is already broken. A death was no gambit surrender, see, a lie carved into the warp. A prophecy starved of its prize, what becomes a martyr when his sacrifice is a ruse. Conrophecy Night Haunter's starved end was of its no prize surrender. Martyr when his sacrifice is a ruse, Shen's clear flashes of blade empire's ash strikes, the blackened night by the warp's rot. He saw the price of his failure, a legion's soul a feast for the chaos gods, so he chose the pyre. A self-made snare to trap his own name in the flames. The Imperium mourns a martyr, but the truth gnaws deeper. Konrad Curze's corpse was a key, turned in a lock no mortal hand could reach. A final war against the void, waged in silence. What does a stratagem become when the battlefield is the soul? His death severed the thread of prophecy, not his legacy. The dark angels march on, blind to the shadow their Primarch cast across time. A gambit played in fire, its stakes written in ash. The hive's veins reek of iron and rot. Nostromo's towers choke on their own breath, stairways of rust and filth where sun has not touched for centuries. Children born to stolen scrap, eyes hollowed by dark, and in that womb Konrad Curze walked a shadow with teeth. And in that language, order from the Konrad void's Curze scream. The wretched knelt not to gods, but to the whisper of his boot on gravel. He wore night like a cloak, helm of scavenged plasteel hiding his face. His justice was a hammer, mercy a sharper blade. When mobs rioted in underzones, he came. When corruptors hoarded grain in spires, he came. Always blood stench preceded him. The Imperium's agents called him a monster. The people called him savior, a paradox forged in filth. The dark angels watched from cold stars. They saw a world teetering on chaosand, a weapon shaped by it. Curze's name was not cleansed but claimed. His rage became doctrine. The Imperium, titan of hypocrisy, let the killer stand. Let him wear their armor. Let him become their shadow. What does a world built on suffering revere? Not light, not truth, a butcher who speaks in silence. Curze's rise was no accident. A mirror held up to the Imperium's soul reflecting not glory, but hunger. A hunger that would not end on Nostromo. The same dark that birthed him now craved more. And when the time came to strike deeper than flesh, to carve a path through the warp's rot, the Night Haunter did not falter. He had spent his life being the Imperium's blade. Now he would become the hilt, the handle they would grip in desperation. A gambit written in blood, ink still drying. No Primarch climbs from Nostromo's filth unmarked. Curze carved his path through fire and flesh. At Istvan Roman III, he turned the Emperor's trust into a dagger. The Loyalist's screams became his war hymn. 1,000 worlds remember the Night Haunter's shadow-long, sharp, and unrelenting. Yet between the bloodlines he butchered, a truth festered. Visions gnawed at his iron will, galaxies unraveling, stars smothered in warp fire. The heresy was not his end, it was his mirror. He hunted traitors with a zeal that outpaced the Inquisition. Each massacre on Charadan's plains was a ledger entry, a debt paid in advance. The Ruinous Powers whispered promises in his sleep. Others called it madness, a Primarch's weakness, but Curze knew the price of hesitation. He had seen the future's teeth. When Horus' betrayal fractured the stars, Curze's role was set, not as a villain, as a fulcrum. The Night Haunter's final campaign was a chess move played with his own soul. To die is to vanish. To vanish is to deny the enemy a weapon. The warp hungers for champions. Curze refused it its due. His body fell, but his design endured. A tomb became a trap. The Imperium's blade now buried waits. The visions were not warnings, they were blueprints. What does a savior look like when his face is ash? Konrad Curze's name is a curse, a hymn. A cipher, the dark angels march, unaware their Primarch's end was a beginning. The galaxy's fate rests on a lie so absolute, even the Emperor cannot unwrite it. The Night Haunter walks no more, but his shadow stretches beyond time. A gambit's final checkmate, a horror deferred for now. The blade strikes. Shen's arm is a coiled spring, uncoiling in a single fluid arc. Konrad Curze feels the steel kiss his throat, not a wound, but a verdict. The air reeks of ozone and iron. Charadan's stormwinds howl through the shattered citadel, carrying the stench of burnt parchment and blood. His vision narrows to the assassin's face, a mask of grim resolve. Asterisk, this is the hour the Emperor cannot unwrite. Asterisk, the night haunter's breath fogs in the cold. His armor, once gleaming, is pitted with centuries of war. It clinks as he falls, a hollow hymn. The blade's edge parts flesh, but not before Curze tilts his chin upward. A final gesture, a signal. The warp shudders, not in triumph, but in asterisk confusion asterisk. For a heartbeat, the void between stars flickers, a shadow folding inward. Curze's mind, sharp as the death he invites, calculates the ripple. A soul unbound, a tether severed. Not his own, but the asterisk other asterisk, the thing that gnawed at his psyche since the schism, since the day he turned his chapter against its father. The thing that would have whispered in the ears of future dark angels, turning their crusades into madness. A horror not of flesh, but of asterisk will asterisk. Shen's blade quivers. Curze's body goes limp, but his thoughts do not. They are a torch passed through time. The Imperium will not know his name for this. Let them call him mad, let them carve his legend in ash. The dark angels will inherit a gene seed, untainted by the voices he has muzzled. Their wars will be their own, their sins, their burden. His sacrifice is a stone cast into an ocean of chaos. The waves it makes will drown quieter evils. The citadel's ruins swallow his corpse. Snow falls, soft and silent. The warp storm recedes. Somewhere a star dies. Somewhere a child is born to lead a ship into the dark. The night haunter is gone, but the night remembers, and the night is long. The blade's shadow stretches, a Gambit's final checkmate, a horror deferred for now. To understand what happens next, you must grasp his sacrifice. The price was his name, his shadow, his war, a blade unsheathed in balance, not madness. The Imperium survives because the night haunter fed the void his own darkness. A sundered soul buys brittle peace. What is a god but a Gambit? The balance holds for now. How long can hollow victory bear a galaxy's weight? The dark angels bled for 1,000 years, a wound without closure. The scouring carved through their ranks like a blade through shadow traders purged, truths buried. The Codex Astartes rose from the ash, a brittle order forged in grief, but order cannot stitch a soul. Konrad Curze's name became a silence between brothers. His absence was a weapon the Ruinous Powers could not wield. The Imperium endured. The gene seed remained unmarked, untouched by the rot his mind had become. Yet what is victory when the victor is erased? The Legion walks a razor's edge. Their oaths are stone, their hearts are ghosts. Every chapter meeting is a requiem. The Primarch's shadow stretches long, but no shadow can feed the living. The dark angels fight not for glory, but to forget the price of their survival. Did the Imperium gain a legion or lose a son? The voice cracks here. Konrad Curze, the night haunter, who knew the warp's hunger better than any. He did not seek death. He sought a door to slam shut. A war to end before it began. His final act was not despair, it was arithmetic. The scars remain, the Imperiums, the legions, the galaxies. A hollow piece bought with a name stricken from history. How many victories are tombs? How many saviors are sacrifices? The balance holds for now. But every ledger of salvation has its debt, and the dark angels, they alone carry the interest. What is a god but a Gambit? The balance holds. For now, how long can a hollow victory sustain the weight of a galaxy? The firestorm devoured Cheredin. Konrad Curze stood at its heart, a silhouette of ash and resolve. His blade, once a symbol of terror, became a conduit for annihilation. What price does a martyr pay when his sacrifice is a weapon? The explosion tore through the warp, a wound sealed with his own essence. No despair. No surrender, only calculation. In the void, the Emperor's silence stretched at a theology of absence. Every fragment of his name, every whispered curse in the dark angels' halls, became a thread in the tapestry of his design. The Ruinous Powers recoiled. A demon's birth was interrupted, its form unraveled by the force of a Primarch's final act. Curze's soul did not ascend. It anchored, a phantom sentinel in the immaterium. His rage, once a torrent of heresy, now a dam against chaos. Did he bargain with the void? Or become its adversary? The Imperium's chronicles call it a victory. They do not record the cost, a saint's shadow, eternally bound to the fracture he created. Duty is a prism, it refracts light into legend, heresy into holiness. Curze's arc bends sharp martyr to warden, warrior to ward. The dark angels march, their gene seed untouched, their faith unshaken. Yet in the warp a whisper stirs, a name, a title, asterisk Night Haunter, asterisk the Emperor's silence endures. A god's inaction is a riddle. Curze's sacrifice is its answer, a theorem written in blood, for what is a Primarch but a paradox? A man who becomes a shield for the galaxy he could not save. The balance holds, but the warp remembers. And in its depths the ghost of a Gambit waits. The Imperium's chronicles name him still a shadow in the Codex, a scar on the Adeptus Terra's memory. His blade fell on Charadon, but the war did not end there. The scouring that followed purged heresies woven deep into the Imperium's sinew, forging the Codex Astartes from the ashes of what he could not unmake. Was it sacrifice? Or the final strike in a war unseen? The Ruinous Powers thrived on his despair, yet he turned their hunger against them. By dying, he severed a conduit. By dying, he drowned a whisper in the warp's endless chorus. The dark angels march under laws he bled into existence, unaware their Primarch's end was a shroud for a greater silence. His name is spoken in the Collegia Purgatus, in the rites of the Ordo Hereticus always as a warning, never as a ghost. The Imperium endures, its fragile order held by chains he forged in fire and fracture. And in the void where the warp's tides ebb and swell, the price of that Gambit waits, not as a threat, not as a promise. As a debt the stars have yet to repay. The night's edge fell not to chaos, but to calculus. Where Horus carved the first wound of the heresy at Istvan Roman III, Curze sealed the breach with his own fractured soul. One embraced the ruin's whisper. The other became a cipher to translate its language burn the lexicon. Horus, son of the Emperor's favor, drowned in the tide he summoned. Curze, heir to the same blood, learned to swim against it. The War Master's betrayal was a storm, the Night Haunter's end was a dam, both cracked. One shattered the Imperium, the other held the void at bay. To die is to become a weapon. Curze knew this. His body a key, his death the turning. The warp thrives on endings, it devours what is left open. But what if the open wound was a trap? A soul laid bare not in defeat, but as bait for the very forces that made Horus tremble. The dark angels do not sing of this, they cannot. Their chapter's shadow is too deep to hold such light. Horus' name is a curse. Curze's is a silence between heartbeats. One legacy bleeds, the other scars. The Imperium walks on both, a paradox of flesh and fate. The stars above still burn with the debt of that Gambit, not a threat, not a promise. A debt the stars have yet to repay. He died not in despair, but in certainty that his end would be the Imperium's salvation. Final pages of * Prince of Crows *. Konrad Curze let Shen's blade find his heart, a prophecy carved in blood, a lie made true by its fulfillment. The Night Haunter's murder was a cipher, a key turned in the void's rusted lock. By dying as a victim, he forced the Ruinous Powers to reckon with a paradox, a champion who outmaneuvered them in death as in life. His final breath was a gambit, a debt paid to the stars so they might keep burning. The assassin's dagger became a fulcrum. On one side, the weight of a million screaming worlds. On the other, a soul that had long since burned its way clear of mercy. The Imperium lives not because he was righteous, but because he was right. The stars above still burn with the debt of that Gambit, not a threat. Not a promise, a debt the stars have yet to repay. The galaxy bleeds, chaos claims its due, yet Curze's Gambit bought breath how long? What shadow did he pin beneath the stars? The Night Haunter's end was no surrender. But what horror did he chain, what tide delay? The Imperium's blade next turns to a name whispered in Void's teeth, Ahab. A Primarch's wrath forged in fire,